I found her name carved into marble before I knew what grief could do to stone. Gracie Watson died at 6 years old in 1889, and her parents, two people who'd lost everything that mattered in a single fever-bright week, commissioned a statue so lifelike that visitors to Bonaventure Cemetery still swear it breathes. They wanted her preserved, not in memory, in form, in presence. And something about that desperation, that refusal to let go, created a doorway that never fully closed. Because when you look at Gracie's statue, really look at it, you start to notice things that marble shouldn't do. The faint rise and fall of her chest, the way her eyes seem to track you as you move. And if you're there at dusk, when the light bleeds gold through the Spanish moss, you might see her smile. Not the smile her sculptor gave her, something else. Bonaventure Cemetery sits on the edge of Savannah like a wound that refuses to heal. It's beautiful in the way abandoned things are beautiful. Overgrown, shadowed, thick with the smell of salt and jasmine and rot. The graves here don't whisper, they sing. And Gracie's plot, tucked beneath a canopy of live oaks, has been a pilgrimage site for over a century. People leave toys, flowers, letters. They kneel in front of her statue and speak to her like she's still listening. And here's the thing no one wants to admit out loud. She is. The statue itself was carved by John Waltz, a sculptor who'd worked with Carrara marble, the kind Michelangelo used, and he poured everything he had into this piece. Gracie's parents, W.J. and Frances Watson, owned the Pulaski House, one of Savannah's grandest hotels. They were wealthy, connected, untouchable. Until pneumonia took their daughter in April of 1889. She was their only child. And when she died, Frances Watson's grief turned into something that scared even the people who loved her. She wouldn't leave Gracie's room, wouldn't let them change the sheets, kept the windows open so her daughter's spirit could come and go freely. W.J., meanwhile, spent a fortune on the statue. He wanted it perfect, wanted it to capture not just Gracie's face, but her soul. And maybe he succeeded a little too well. The first reported sighting came in 1894, just 5 years after Gracie's death. A groundskeeper claimed he saw a small girl sitting beside the statue at dawn, wearing a white dress and holding a cluster of camellias, Gracie's favorite flower. He called out to her, thinking she was a lost child, and she turned to look at him. He said her face was Gracie's face, exact, down to the small mole near her left ear. Then she vanished. Not ran, vanished. He quit the next day and never came back. Over the decades, the stories multiplied. Visitors reported hearing a child's laughter echoing through the cemetery when no children were present. Photographers captured strange light anomalies around the statue, soft glowing shapes that resembled a small figure. And in 1967, a woman named Margaret Cho visited Gracie's grave and took a Polaroid of the statue. When the photo developed, there was a second figure in the frame, a little girl in a white dress standing just behind the marble Gracie, one hand resting on the statue's shoulder. Margaret showed the photo to the cemetery staff. They locked it in a drawer and told her never to come back. But here's where it gets stranger. Would you touch the statue if you knew what happened to the people who did? Because some visitors can't resist. They reach out, run their fingers over Gracie's cold marble hand, and a few, just a few, report the same thing. The stone feels warm, not sun warm, body warm, and if they hold on long enough, they feel a pulse. In 1983, a teenager named David Marsh visited Bonaventure on a dare. His friends wanted him to spend the night beside Gracie's grave. He agreed, thinking it was a joke, but around 2 a.m. he heard footsteps, small, deliberate, circling the statue. He turned on his flashlight and saw nothing. The footsteps continued. Then he heard a voice, a little girl's voice, whisper his name. Not David, his full name, David Allen Marsh. A name only his family used. He ran, left his sleeping bag, his flashlight, everything. When his friends went back the next morning to retrieve his things, they found his sleeping bag neatly folded beside the statue, with a single camellia resting on top. No camellia bushes grow near Gracie's grave. Tell me in the comments if you think David heard her, because I'm not sure even he knows. The thing about Gracie Watson is that her story isn't just sad. It's saturated with a kind of love that doesn't know how to stop. Her parents never moved on. Frances visited the grave every single day until her own death in 1911. WJ followed 2 years later, and both of them are buried nearby, close enough that if you stand at Gracie's statue and listen, some say you can hear Frances singing lullabies, the same ones she sang when Gracie was alive, soft, aching, eternal. But love that's strong doesn't just fade, it lingers, it warps, and maybe it traps. In 2003, a paranormal investigator named Dr. Edwin Cross conducted a study at Bonaventure. He brought EVP equipment, thermal cameras, the works. He spent 3 nights beside Gracie's grave recording audio. On the second night, his thermal camera detected a heat signature shaped like a child sitting on the statue's lap. It stayed there for 11 minutes. He reviewed the footage 100 times. No explanation. And when he played back his audio recordings, he heard a voice, clear, unmistakable, saying, "I'm not allowed to leave." Not, "I can't leave." Not, "I won't leave." "I'm not allowed." Dr. Cross published his findings in a paranormal journal, but he never returned to Bonaventure. In interviews, he said the experience fundamentally changed his understanding of death. He refused to elaborate, and in 2009 he stopped researching the paranormal altogether. So what keeps Gracie there? Is it her parents' grief, so heavy it anchored her soul to the earth? Is it the statue itself, a vessel that holds more than marble? Or is it something simpler, something worse? That Gracie doesn't know she's dead, and every night she waits for her mother to come take her home. People still visit, hundreds every year. They leave toys, flowers, handwritten notes. Some ask for blessings, others ask for forgiveness, and a few, just a few, ask Gracie to follow them, to leave the cemetery, to find peace. None of those people ever report back, because here's the final piece, the one that no one talks about. In 1998, the cemetery installed security cameras near the older sections. Vandalism had become a problem, and on multiple occasions the cameras captured something the staff won't officially confirm but won't deny either. Footage of a small figure moving between the graves at night, always ending at Gracie's statue, always kneeling, always still. They stopped reviewing that footage in 2001. If you believe this part, wait until you hear what comes next. Because Gracie Watson isn't the only child buried in Bonaventure who refuses to rest. And the statue they built for the boy in Section 12? They had to cover it with a tarp after what happened in 2004. But that's a story for another night. If you made it this far, if Gracie's story settled into your chest the way it did mine, then subscribe. Not because I want you to, because you need to know what else is waiting in that cemetery. What else is still watching, still smiling, still trapped between the world that buried them and the world that won't let them go. And if you ever find yourself in Savannah, standing in front of that marble girl with her perfect face and her hollow eyes, do me a favor. Don't touch her hand. Don't speak her name. Just leave your flower and walk away, because some doors, once opened, don't close, and some children, once called, always answer.